as virtual. Share. Okay. Okay, is that working? Bring customer first, building a sustainable product with the lean startup approach. Yeah, you can see this.
Yep, we can see it.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Franck Debane, or Franck Debane, depending on which accent you want to take. And I'm a next project manager. I've moved from engineering to project management to product management, and now I do a lot of stuff around innovation. And through my career, I've been always very much interested in methodologies. And the one that resonates with me the most and that makes sense, not just on project management, but on also the product and what to build. And when you're trying to build anything, basically, is the lean startup approach, which I think is root from the entrepreneurial way of doing things, but also in a very methodical way. And what I would like to do today is share with you some of those concepts around the lean startup approach, and give you the story of a project that we did last year with a big insurance company, a subsidiary of Allianz, and tell you how we helped the team in Allianz create a green insurance. It's not Allianz, actually, it's Euler Hermes, User Hermes, which is a B2B kind of insurance, and we do insure transactions and things like that. So I'm going to give you first a rundown a bit of the lean startup approach, and then show you exactly how we apply this and how we helped that team launch this product last year. But before we do this, I want to give you a little exercise, a little bit of thinking. And I want you to put yourself into the shoes of you're about to launch. You have a business idea and you're about to launch it. And the business idea that you have is really simple. You want to launch a jewelry store online where jewelry will be made when they order. So people can customize the jewelry. They can pick what type of stone they take, what type of ring, what type of earrings, what type of whatever, the shape, the metal, the stone. And then once they place the order, they're actually able to you produce the ring and you or the earring and you ship that to the customer. So here's your business idea. You know it's a huge opportunity because the jewelry business has been not disrupted for a while, and there's a lot of money to be made. It's luxury, and here I want you to think and do this in pairs. So we create breakout rooms where you can all go, two people per breakout room, and have a discussion. We'll give it 2-3 minutes to what will you do on the first 4 months. Okay. So you have this business idea, you want to launch this business, and now with all the knowledge that you have and the expertise, what would you do in the first 4 months? If we can create so breakout rooms now and give it 3 minutes time, and then what we'll do is that we'll get some answers and then analyze those and go into a little bit more into the methodology of how actually stuff happens. So Margarita, can we create the breakout rooms, or should I do this on my side?
No, I'm doing it as we speak. 4 to 5 participants?
2
to 3.
Yeah, or just 2 participants, 2 to 3. Yeah, I guess it's good.
Perfect. You go. See you there. They're coming out.
People should slowly start to come back.
Okay, welcome back. So there was the small brief I gave you, a jewelry store, 100% online, selling customized jewelry. And what you have, I didn't tell you that, but you have a team of 3, so you have all the skills you need, you have about 10,000 euro, and you have an uncheckable will to succeed. So what I like to do now is go around a couple of groups, and if you want to share, what did you think of that you would do in the first 4 months of launching that business? So if somebody wants to share what they've discussed in the breakout room, we hear 2, 3, 4 examples maybe. And you have to unmute, I think, to be able to be heard.
Okay, it's Willem van Mulders. I will start. I was in a group with, I don't remember the names of the people anymore, so, but the people we know. We talked about identifying the customers to target, looking at the communication channels you would use, what assortment of products you would sell, and then try and find a way of setting up a shop in a quick way to get a quick feedback loop on what you're selling, if it's worth doing, and if there's enough response from the market. That's
Okay.
what we talked about.
Okay, thank you. Interesting. Did some other teams have a different approach or the same?
If you want, I can go next. That was group 8 with Ramesh and Karen. So I think we came up with partially the same items, of course, creating the business plan, doing the market research, I think, which was already mentioned as well. Trying to see, well, coming up with the vision so that we have, identify a company name. We also thought first to get some funding, but I see on the slides that we were expected to already have some funding. But and then in terms of communication, also when you have the company name, to come up with some web platform URL so that you can get to the customers quickly. So that and then trying to identify resources in general, so people, but also products, compounds. So those were a couple of thoughts.
Okay. Thank you.
So for Frank, in group 3, we had some technical issues, so there wasn't much of a conversation. But when I'm thinking of this now and seeing these slides, so I would say, let's say go for a 100% recycled product, of course. So don't start looking up for new materials in the ground, and make some nice sustainable products out of it, which can last for a very long time.
Interesting. You're taking the green approach right away. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, one more group wants to share.
Yes, hello, Frank. I don't know if you can hear me.
Hello. Yes, we can hear you. Okay.
I was together with Alex, and we were discussing product and business plan. But then I shared a more personal experience with Alex because I have launched a web shop, actually. It's more like a hobby that went out of hand about stationery. And I initially focused on the product. So selecting products that were handmade in Europe to set up the shop. And that was basically my only drive to get started.
Okay.
I didn't have a plan and I have very little money. But I did manage to set up a small e-commerce business back then, a couple of years ago, and it's still running as a very tiny e-commerce store.
Okay. And how did you go about it?
So I tried selecting some stationery items by looking on the internet to the competition that is out there, and I visited one market fair specifically tailored to those kinds of goods, where I made the first contacts to buy notebooks, pens, pencils, stuff like that. And I'm savvy enough to set up an e-commerce website using WordPress and WooCommerce. So that was all fine. It took a lot of work to put it together, but then I was just sitting back and seeing if it worked. And soon after that, I added Google advertising to hopefully get a broader reach. And that also worked. And basically, I kept on working on improving what's on offer.
Yeah.
And looking at the data to see what worked and what didn't work.
Okay, great. That's an interesting story. Okay, the case I was proposing to you, this business idea, is actually was launched about 10 years ago by a French company called, you might have heard of them. It's called they're called Gemio. Here's their logo. If you live in France, if you come to France, you might have come across them. And now they're in France, one of the top 10 most known brand in jewelry. And so 10 years ago, there was a few students that had this idea. It came actually out of the frustration of one of the founders that wanted to buy a wedding ring to his fiancée. They were getting married, and the two got married, and the two started the company. And the frustration was when they went to Place Vendôme to look at the jewelry. It was basically the people that were trying to sell them what they had in stock and not what they really wanted. And so they said, why not do customized jewelry? Okay, and so they got a guidance actually and help from experienced entrepreneur, and they told them clearly that if they wanted to launch this business as such, what they needed to do first is get proof that there is any type of demand. Okay, and to get proof that there's any type of demand is not about doing a full market study, it's about actually testing right away your offer with customers. So after talking to a few jewelry seller, they understood what kind of which one were the most popular model, and they created a little bit like you, a very crappy website out of WordPress where you couldn't even place an order. They was just showing the product, explaining the concept, and you could somehow customize a little bit the ring. And they were doing only rings at the beginning. And then they went to see a few bloggers, pay them coffee, talk about the concept, and they liked the concept, and talked about the concept on the blog, and had an audience come that way. The goal that Gemio had in the first 4 months was to prove to themselves that they could sell one ring over the internet with the concept that they had. Okay, so it's in a way a market study, yes, as you mentioned. In a way, also looking at what type of product you do, but in a time constraint that allows you to go fast and decide if you succeed or not, or you can adapt if you don't. Okay, so that story is an example of how startups and if you look at startups, I talk about startups, but also new product development in general, where there's some type of uncertainty, or where basically when you have a fixed plan, things stop working. Okay, here there was not a plan, there was a goal, and then the plan was to do whatever is required in that time frame to hit that goal. So when the first order came in about 4 months later, they didn't have any way to get the money from the customer. They didn't have any way to produce the ring. They didn't have any of that. Okay, and when we think about new product development, we think about what is the product doing exactly, and not exactly what does the customer need. And so in the Lean startup approach, you really look at what the customer is doing, and of course, when they have the first order, they have a problem because they don't know how to process it. So they look for people that could actually build this ring. And they got about 70 people that tell them no, and eventually someone said, yes, we can do it. So it took a lot of delay for the customer to get delivered. And to get the payment, then they had to send a bank IBAN and so on to get the transfer and all that, right? So very, very manual, but it allows them to understand more the customer. Then after that, they say, okay, can we sell 5 rings, automate some of those process and build up the product like this with the customer. For me, what they've done is very characteristic of the lean startup approach. And so what I want to give you as a few guiding points, looking at this example of the lean startup approach, is that there's a common understanding of a company or a new product, or sometimes a project as well, should be built like this, right? You start with an idea or a concept, then you write a business plan, and you try to get proof by studying the financial of your idea to see if it will work. Then you go get some money to actually build your idea. You hire the best people that you can. You build an exceptional product, and then you launch it into the market. Okay, and now we know that this drives about 90% chance of failure in startups. Okay, so this plan is being questioned, and now if you look at sometimes the way project management can be done as well, is very much a waterfall process here when you do each gate, and then once you have passed the gate. And we see this in big company, and I see this in big company today. Okay, so the lean startup approach says the opposite. It says, actually, you're going to start by marketing, and then when you manage to get some customers, you're going to build not an exceptional product, but a crappy product. Then you're going to maybe get some people on board, get some money, and eventually, you check the financials towards the end when you have some concrete data about what is it that you're doing. So, Robin, to your example, what you did is very much an entrepreneurial approach where you start testing things. What you're lacking maybe is a goal or ambition to do something bigger than just a hobby out of it. But you see that it's natural in some context, and in some other contexts, especially in the corporate where they ask you proof before investment, is become less natural. So. And that makes sense because so in this approach, what is being challenged the most is the business plan, the planification around this. And in the corporate environment, there's the execute part where you're actually running and operating an existing business model where you know a lot of stuff because it has been happening for years and years. So you're exploiting the business model, and what you want is planning, predictable outcome. You don't want to fail, and you want to optimize the current business model that you have. And when there's uncertainty, you're more searching for solutions. You're more exploring, experimenting. You want to do unexpected discovery. You want to test, learn, and fail, and you want to iterate. Okay. And so the approach on the left is where the lean startup makes sense. On the right, it's more on operation and optimizing. Although now what's happening, because the world is changing so fast, is that all the execute part and the organization, where there's processes well structured and people doing each part of the process in different silos. This part now is being challenged because the world is changing and our customers are shifting very quickly from one company to another, and so a lot of companies they're still executing, but also they need to increase their aspect on the search part and basically trying to find the new products because their products are going to die in the next 10 to 20 years. I want to give you a couple of tools around this, and I think if I have to summarize this approach and how it's done, I like it because it's structured, and as an engineer, I can find measurable things in it. And for me, it helped me a lot in understanding actually what do the customer want and how I quantify this, so I know exactly that what I'm building is the right thing. Okay, so what you do is you kind of document your plan, and for this you can use different canvas. There's the business model canvas that you might know of, the lean startup canvas, or the startup canvas, or the innovation canvas. There's a bunch of different canvas, but basically all those canvas do is that they allow you to structure the different hypotheses and the most critical one that you have around the new product or business or project that you have in that. Okay. Then what you do is an exercise which is called assumption mapping, where you basically, your goal is you identify the riskiest part of your plan. And here you want to sort them by what is important, the most important, and the one you have the most certainty about, or the less certainty about. Okay, this is called assumption mapping. Again, this was done by a guy called David Bland back in the US about 5 years ago. But basically, it allows you to identify what is important and what's uncertain about your project. Once you have that, you use this feedback loop, which is called the build, measure, learn loop, where you actually take your the hypothesis that you have, the riskiest hypothesis. You build what is called sometimes an MVP, but it's more an experiment. I mean, MVP stands for minimal viable product, but it's a misleading way of naming things. But what you're doing is actually an experiment. As a scientist, you measure data out of the experiments, and you decide if your hypothesis is true or false. And then you move it from the uncertain part to the more certain part of your risk. And here, when things are important and certain, you can plan for them. When they're uncertain, then you need to get clarity about those, because potentially they could put all your project at stake. And then basically you revise your plan on this. And there's the notion of pivot, where you actually change your plan in a significant way because you learn something from the market that push you to change your product and the direction that you're given to your project. Okay, so that's some of the three basic tools that you can use in a very systematic way. So there's no guesswork here, because you design your experiment and you measure stuff. Measuring is mostly customer behavior, because when you think about it, most of the risks today on anything are related to, especially innovation, let's say, on predicting the customer behavior. Will the customer like this product? Will the customer use it? Will they pay for it? And things like that. As things around the feasibility of the project, we have more control over, and we have a lot of tools to manage that in most projects I'm talking about. So. The lean startup is about a process and tools, yeah, but also about I would say behavior, and some of the behavior that are critical for the success of the approach would be obsessed by the customer, check everything that you do with the customer, because the goal of anything is to create value for a customer. And then if you're not creating any value for the customers, then we question that. Action, meaning that you do stuff rather than overthink. Focus, you make hard choices sometimes, because the way you want to test your hypothesis is you want to first make an hypothesis, take a small bet, see if what you're thinking about works or not, and then test it and learn from it and adapt. And test and learn is exactly that, is that you actually go and test what you have decided, if that works or not. Okay, I'm looking at the time, and I want to leave some room for Q&As, but I want to dive now. You might have heard about the Lean Startup already. If not, there was a kind of quick rundown. I want to tell you what happened now in this green project. And so the context is a credit insurance. Okay, in a B2B context. So insurance for project finance for big projects. Okay, let's say you have a bridge to build, an airport, or a wind farm. The people holding those projects, they go to the bank, they get the fundings from banks, but there's a credit that opens a credit, but that credit needs an insurance in case there's a default of payment. So that's the context of this. So basically, the credit, the project, they are financed by the credit, and the benefits, the credit benefits from an insurance. And the company that we did this project on was called AOL. And so that's a business that they have, okay, that's running. And so a team within that business said, okay, you know what, we want to do something for the planet, we want to have an impact our scale. And so there is a how do you call it, regulation coming into the finance industry, and so we want to apply those and we want to be leader in this. So what we want to do is use this, but do a green insurance. So what is a green insurance for them? It's basically taking the projects that are only green, financed by a credit that becomes a green credit in some way because it's financing a green project, and putting a green insurance in that chain. And what is a green insurance for them? say the green insurance is already some kind of green somehow because the project is green. But what we'll do is that all the premium, I mean the benefits that we get from this insurance and the placement of the money will go into green bonds. Okay, so that's what they came up with, the green insurance. Okay, and that's a new thing. So the green projects financed by green credit, benefiting from green insurance, and the premium is invested into green bonds, which supports the green projects again. Okay, so it's this virtual circle of finance that the teams wanted to put in place. Okay, now that being said, the way the lean startup approach was applied to this is like, okay, this is the starting point. What are the hypotheses that you have, the known, the unknown, before you actually start building the product and selling it? Let's look at those hypotheses. Okay. Now the insurance business, as you might know, is very convenient because it's a service. It's a service, meaning that you can change the product very quickly. What is the product in the insurance business? It's mostly paper and contracts and things like that, an agreement. So it's very easy to change. It's not like it's you know, hardware or things like that, where it's actually a bit harder to change. So that was their starting point. And so I will tell you what the team, the customer, how we moved forward in that project, and what were the outcomes of this project. So starting with the lean startup approach, I'm going to introduce you quickly. The team here is actually an international team, 2 French, 2 English, and 1 from Singapore here. And where we started with was with the customer, obviously. Okay, the highest risk are around the customer. And so the customer, they're not that many. The customers for this team are banks that do credits to those big projects, okay, that do finance. And so I'll check my notes here. So the good thing is that the team launching the project had the support from the sales team, and the fact that the sales team was in here. So the way this process works is that they work with brokers. So the bank has this credit, they need an insurance for it, and so there's a broker, and the broker contact different insurance and say, you know, what you have. So there's no direct sales from the bank to the insurer, and so the broker was involved, and so they saw the sales team saw this as an advantage to go talk to the brokers and talk to the potential insurance, and to add value to the customers with that green proposition. But they were a bit reluctant because there was no product and there was nothing in place. So the way this team started was to actually talk to the customers, and soon we realized that, oops, something's happening here. Oh, we don't need that anyway. So soon they realized that basically not all banks, although they said they were green, not all banks were really interested in green. As you know, as a concept, yes, they are, but then when it comes to take actions to actually do something about it, they were not interested in green. And so what I want to show you here is the adoption curve of any new product or innovation. And that's basically a growth curve where it says that for any product that enters into the market, you have the innovators, the early adopters, then the early majority, then the late majority, and then the laggers. And this curve is clearly showing that out of all the customers, and we talked about maybe 10 to 20 customers throughout this project, not all of them were that interested into getting this green insurance. Some of them were saying, yes, that's nice, but would you give us a discount? Okay, meaning that they didn't value the fact that it was green. They were just interested in the potential discount. They say it's green, yeah, whatever, but do you give us a discount? And so those clearly are not early adopters. They're not passionate about the cause that the product is promoting. And so out of those interviews, that's what we got. And so the question was actually what brought us, the team, back to what is the value. So there was this discussion about, I'm going to show this slide here, we'll have, what is the value that this product is bringing? Because if it's not the discount, the team decided it was not the discount, because then the meaning of all the potential customers that we engage conversation with. And so this is the curve, right? And so as any product onto the market, there's the innovators, the early adopters that will take it first. And then the early majority will only take the products once they see early adopters using it. Okay? And so people that will say, is there a discount? Clearly, they're not the early adopters. They're not the people that jump on this because it's green. They will just asking for extra things. So those we clearly put aside and really focus on the early adopters, the people that when we explained the product, they were really happy about it and see that it was a full circle of benefits towards a greener finance. So that helped the team also clarify what is exactly the value. And so the value that they're bringing is that the fact that all the money will be reinvested into green, okay, into green bonds specifically. Okay. So the value now we had to make this value tangible, because the customer says, okay, this is great, but it's just word. How do we know that this is actually happening? So then came the internal conversation with within the insurance and the team and the people managing the investment for Euler Hermes, and said, actually, can we guarantee that the premium for those insurance will get funneled into the investment will get funneled into those green bonds? And the answers was yes, no problem. We're actually kind of already doing this, but we can officialize it. And so so once we know that it was feasible from the inside, then came the question of, okay, what do we give to the customer as a proof that this is what we're doing? And so there's a couple of things that were bounced off. There's a stamp that is actually being put still today on the contract and says, okay, we are assuming this contract. And so potentially they discussed about putting a stamp with a green leaf on it or something like that. But the thing that actually eventually the brokers and the sales team thought was the best with the customer was to actually provide a letter which each green insurance sold, that this was a green insurance, and all the profits from the green insurance will be invested into green bonds, basically. Okay, so that's what the product came to be. As I told you, is paper and contracts. But the way that came up with this was by interacting with customers and learning what was valued exactly. And so that was about November 2020, last year, maybe a bit earlier, as this process go through most of 2020. It was through the lockdowns and stuff like that. But eventually it launched, and I'm just going to show you the results and the impact that it had. So yeah, there was the question also, what is a green project exactly? So the bank has their definitions, but then they use the EU taxonomy to kind of clarify that, because green, that's one of the learning that I have going into this green, is like there's this taxonomy that try to define very precisely what is green, what is not green, but then at the end there's always gray areas, and we can discuss about this if you want later. But so that's the conditions that Euler Hermes sets for their green insurance. For them, it has to fit into one of those categories. Then there was the social also. Do we do social as well as part of this insurance and all that? So the focus part of the approach was very much about saying, no, we don't do social, otherwise it's going to blur the message, because some social products or initiatives are not green, and so on, right? So we simplify this, although they could do a social insurance in the very same way. And so the results, a lot of, after the launch, a lot of press coverage and a lot of success to the brokers and to the sales as well. The latest update is that they signed about 24 new policies now, and so the product is doing good. I think from my perspective, it responds to the need of people that have let's say a green conscious, and that are in the position of making the decisions and decide that this is better for the planet in some way, or for the environment, as there's no business benefits. The value that was sold was really about the fact that it's better for the environment overall. So that's what's interesting in this product and the way they've done this. So yeah, learnings for me, digging into the green. I think there's a few stuff, let's say three items that I can take away. I think first is that green is complex because sometimes you think it's green, but it's not green. I will give you two examples. So there was a discussion about the windmills, and apparently they don't know how to recycle the fans of the windmills, and so that's a problem because actually it might end up creating more pollutions than otherwise. And then there was this project that the discussion around this project was in the shipping industry, and the shipping industry is known to be one of the less green, where they pollute a lot by transferring goods from one place to the other. But here it was a project about a boat that was polluting 90% less than the others, but still the industry was kind of brown, and so they said no, it's not green, although it's people that are trying to get better for doing better actions for the environment, and so they don't get the green tag because of the industry. So it's really hard to be the judge, let's say, of what is green, what is not, and I think I cascaded to so many elements in the chain that that is very hard to measure. That's one of the learnings. And the other learning is more about the process and the method. I think this team succeeded because they were learning from customers, making hard choices sometimes also, but also very connected to the rest of the organization and making choices with the rest of the organization, involving the sales team, involving the finance department, involving the communication department for communication, and so on. And they were very good at bringing all those people together around this project. And this triggered inside the company nomination of ESG roles and things like that. And so now they're looking at declining this type of products to other initiatives. So thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, we have a bit of more time left.
So thank you very much, Frank, for that presentation. It was very illuminative, basically. I suppose going through your presentation, basically, I have a kind of a first question, which is, so you took us through the lean startup and the customer obsession, basically, and in the case of this this green insurance, were they applying the principles of the kind of lean startup, and particularly related to the sustainable project, the sustainable product, or did they plan it that they were going to produce a sustainable product, basically? So I was trying to kind of link to the lean startup and also this particular sort of initiative, and how the principles were applied.
So the initial intention was to create this green product, and they took the lean startup approach to do so, and doing so means it helped them clarify the value that they bring to which customer. And so you talked about the customer obsession. Yes, at the beginning, it's not something that they have in mind, and nobody has really this in mind, because they are confident that their product will work, and they would just want to build it the way they think it should be built. But getting to the customer and understanding who is the first customer, those early adopters, and what do they value exactly in this green insurance, right? So let's take a hypothetical example, and they didn't do the lean startup approach. Then they will approach the market and say, look, we have this product, it's great. Then they will have feedback and say, most of the market will ask them, well, hold on, do you give a discount with this green insurance? Which was one of the things that was requested. And then the question was like, okay, well, we have pressures, people are interested, but they want a discount with this product. And say, okay, what do we do then? And then the question here was, no, this is a green product. And so the answer is the green product. And so we're not going to market to those who want the discount, right? And so the way you bring it to the market also help shape that product. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question. I'll give you some insights on this side.
Yeah, I suppose what I was trying to do is pull together with the principles of the lean startup and the green product, and obviously but so I guess their objective was probably more the whole things around putting a product together which was sustainable, basically. I suppose that's the principle.
Yeah, and I think if you have to articulate the two concepts together, it will make sense, that because in the value that you bring to customer. Okay, and the lean startup looks at that, look at offer and demand. And here there was some kind of demand for green insurance or a need, and so that's how they respond to that, right? You don't create just the product to create the product, you create the product because you're responding to a need. And so yeah, and so it's, especially for finance, this green loop does not make a lot of business sense, but it makes sense for the environment. So it's like almost there's a different dimension that things are being evaluated on. It does not harm the business for sure, but it does not make any extra profit.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Are there any more questions? I don't see any.
I have a question for you guys. This gray zone between green and brown and light green and light brown, do you see it as well, or for you it's pretty clear and
do we have any Okay, so yes, we have a response there. I think that it's not always clear, but I suppose it's something which is often open to interpretation, basically. I mean, what do you what's your position in terms of or why do you pose the question, basically, I suppose would be the
because I think it's something that's very hard to measure, and I don't know if it's even possible to measure. I'm just I see initiatives like this where each part of the chain is trying to improve their bit, but at the end, does it really improve? And what does it improve? And it's not financing the excluding the shipping, so I don't know. It's just an open question. I don't have a religion or philosophy about this. I just since you guys are also concerned about the product, I think it's more a topic for discussion, I guess.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's maybe something that we can. I think you're participating in the panel discussion tonight, basically in Luxembourg. So
yeah,
maybe we can see if that. So that's an interesting. And so I think here there's a comment from Philippe that everybody sees green a bit different. We have a no packaging store, but it still sells avocados, and I guess that's the concept of that. I suppose that the avocados you need to bring them in from far afield. So the fact that you're flying them in basically, I suppose, means that some of your sustainability objectives goes out of the window. So.
Yeah. True.
Okay, are there any more questions? Okay. Okay, yes, so I think yes, and one comment here from Jeffrey, which is that it's really that I suppose part of it is also about the transparency in the supply chain. I suppose that's transparency from the point of view of the I guess the impact of the different parts of the supply chain in terms of the sustainability goals. So. And really, yes, yeah, as mentioned here, in terms of how green is each party in the supply chain. So.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you very much for the question and the discussions that we've had so far, and thank you for the participations. And you will, if you go back through the chat, you will see the PDU codes. So,
Thank you.
thank
very
you.
much. Thank you.
Bye.